margins of error in measurement. Now, when you're going to be making similar items, you're manufacturing or building similar items, right? The fact is, no matter how accurate, how sophisticated your machines are, the cutting machines, welding machines, and so on and so forth, right? There's going to be some slight difference in the measurements of the various of the items that you're manufacturing. Example, suppose you have a case where you're constructing a housing scheme, and the houses, they must be similar, they must look similar. The house is in a certain phase of the scheme, right? They must have the same height, same width, and so on and so forth. Now, if, for example, you should have one of these houses, the width or the length of the house should be 40 feet. All right? 40 feet. That's in imperial measurements. Let's say, well, 1 foot is 30 centimeters. 4 3 is 12. All right. So in this case, you have 30 times 40. So you have 3 4 is 1200 centimeters, or 12 meters. You get the idea, all right? The width of each house must be 12 meters. Now, you are going to find, even if you do what they call this upcoming technology, 3D printing, very accurate. In this case, you might have prefabricated material, or you might have block, cement, and steel. But in making these housing schemes, they're using precast, prefabricated material, right? Now, if you check it out and you see that this house 12 meters wide, this house 12 meters wide, 12 meters wide, 12 meters, 12 meters, that's the nominal measurement. In other words, that is the measurement you write down, or you tell them that each house is 12 meters wide. But if you check closely, you will find, instead of, for example, 12 meters will be 12,000 millimeters, all right? You're not going to find all of them being 12,000 millimeters. Even one of them is not going to be exactly 12,000 millimeters, right? You're going to find one of them might be 11,999 millimeters. Another one will be 12,010 millimeters. You will find another one, 11,995 millimeters, and so on. So there will be some error in terms of the width of these houses. Now, you have some standards, and you say, all right, we know they're not going to be exactly 12,000 millimeters, but we're going to be careful enough so that we should not have any of them measuring 11,000 9, 100 millimeters is 10. None of them should measure less than 11,900 millimeters. And none of them should measure more than 12,100 millimeters. In other words, none of them should be 100 millimeters too wide or 100 millimeters too narrow. So they should be 12,000 millimeters, but no less. They should not have 12,000 millimeters minus 100 millimeters or plus 100 millimeters. So what you're saying here, that they should be 12,000 millimeters plus or minus 100 millimeters. Alright? Now, that is your margin of error. It can be 100 millimeters smaller or 100 millimeters larger. If any is less than 100 millimeters smaller, then it means that it is below 11,900 millimeters. And the width of that wall should not be taken to the site. It's too narrow. At the same time, if you see any wall that is 12,100, more than 12,100 millimeters, it is too wide. You must leave it at the manufacturer's plant. Don't take it to the site. Some correction must be made. But if it is between 11,900 and 12,100 millimeters, then you take it to the site. Alright? So, at the manufacturer plant, if you're measuring these walls, they must be 12,000 plus or minus 100 millimeters. That means you can take off 100 millimeters or you can add on 100 millimeters. But don't take off more than 100 millimeters or don't add on more than 100 millimeters. Alright? So, the fact that you don't have exactly 12,000 means there is some small error, and the margin of error here is plus or minus 100 millimeters. So, that's the margin of error in this case. Now, what we're looking at here is the margin of error having to do with adding or subtracting a specific measurement. Now, it could also be another case where you're manufacturing potato chips and you put on the you print that this is 100 gram, a 100 gram bag of potato chips. Now, the Bureau of Standard, the Consumer Protection Agency, doesn't really care if you put in more than 100 grams. But the fact is, they're saying that this must not be less. You must not have a bag of potato chips that is less than 95 grams if it is labeled 100 grams. If they come to your manufacturing plant or your warehouse to do an inspection and they find that several of your potato chips are less than 95 grams, they will put a stop order on the manufacturing plant and say you must make the correction. That's the first warning. And if they come back and they see that you're still manufacturing too many of these potato chips less than 95 gram, they can summon you, or they can make you pay a fine, or on the third warning, they can summon you to court and sue you and say you are scamming the customers by telling them that it's 100 gram and you're shortchanging them. All right? It can apply to various items. It could be drinks. You're saying that the content of the drink, this bottle drink, is 500 milliliters. But persons from the standards organization might do inspection and make sure that it is really 500 millimeters. And if it is less than 500 millimeters, it could be they give an allowance. They could say 450 millimeters, 400 and say 95 millimeters is okay. But if they catch you selling the customers less than 495 millimeters, they're going to write a document to issue that you pay a fine, take into court and pay a fine. And they can name and shame you, say this brand of drinks, they have been fined for shortchanging you, the customer, and they would lose their reputation. Alright, so those are margins of error examples. We're going to do some calculations in the next video.